Welcome to episode 136 of the Startup Show. Today we are here at the offices of Brixel, and I'm very excited to talk to the CEO and co-founder Martin. And we are talking about the transition from corporate to startup. We talk about the startup Brixel, but we also talk about how to become an entrepreneur. Make sure to stay tuned. Welcome to episode 136 of the Startup Show. Today we are here in Zurich at Brixel, and I'm very excited to speak to the CEO and co-founder Martin. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Cédric. Thank you for having me. Hi, everybody.
So take it away for a few seconds. Talk about you and who you are.
Okay. Yeah, as you heard, I'm Martin. I'm 35 years old. I got started into the digital business when I joined Michael with his digital agency. He founded the company 2010 and I joined 2013. And together now we founded Brixel a couple years ago. Yeah, so we joined forces, or the knowledge from a digital agency and my background. I'm a business administration guy, so I was working in marketing, then I was working in digital product development, in the agency also for banks, real estate companies, and so on.
You also have like different types of agencies where you support startups, and then you decided to focus on Brixel. What made you decide like really becoming focused on one venture only?
So what we did is, or when I joined the agency, we were just a service provider, and then we decided to start building our own products. So we were working for banks and so on, but we always had time left or our own ideas, and we started with a little apps or something like that, or a website builder tool. And over the time, then it just grew. We just grew into this startup business in a way of trying out things. We co-founded another startup, kitaclub.ch. It's a daycare platform where you have all the daycares of Switzerland. We sold our shares a couple years ago, and so we just kept learning and learning. And our initial idea was that we have the resources of building several startups at one time or being involved in several ones. And we just learned it's really hard to do that. There's some concepts that work really great in the US. Maybe you've heard of Expo or others. They co-built Uber and startups like that. And this was our inspiration. And it was just hard to raise money also in Switzerland for this concept. Brixel was in the room and we really thought this is what can be something big, not just maybe an app we're involved with. We just decided to go for it, just for that one, and left everything else and left also our agency, and this is our baby. Let's go for it.
Yes. Tell me, I understand it more or less why people are excited about entrepreneurship and startups, but many people out there, have a hard time. It's associated with so much risk. What is it that drives you to be involved with so many startups and motivates you to be like at such an early stage of a company?
Good question. I think I've never been learning more than in the last 5 or 6 years. So ever since I decided to go this path, I've learned so much. I could never pay for this, at the school or whatever program you would do. And I'm just a person who likes to try out new things and, do things, and I get bored, if I just sit somewhere. And that's basically also what happened to me before I joined Michael at his company. I was working at SRF, Swiss television company, and already after like half a year, I felt like I need to do something more. And then I met Michael again. I've known him before, and I said I have this idea, and he's like, yeah, I also want to get into startup more, and let's join forces. And I started with like coming here 1 day per week, and after 2 months, I quit my other job, and it just got rolling. And I probably had it in me for a long time, but I just went, to school, did university. Every now and then I did something that could be, said that is something entrepreneurial. Yeah. Like I was selling Christmas trees one season or stuff like that. And I always had fun of just trying out new things. It just came naturally then that I saw this opportunity, and it clicked with Michael. And then, every now 5 years passed. Yeah.
So as you know, we always do some background research. We send out emails to some of your friends. And what we did is we reached out to David from Investiere. I think you know him pretty well. And he said to me, I have to ask you, and I don't even know what is going to come now, why your nickname is Dynamite.
Okay. Well, my nickname is actually Dinu. It comes from Martin. And he just called me Dynamite D. And I was thinking about it, and I'm like, yeah, why Dynamite D? And I think it's coming from the time when we were studying in Bern, And I met him he was living with one of my best friends they shared a flat. And we just went out partying, and just probably the energy I had and how he felt I was, or the vibe. So I think it was him who called me this, and then all of his friends called me Dynamite D then. So it came naturally. It's not something you choose or pick. It just
came.
Yeah, like that.
Very good. So Martin, now finally let's get to your current venture, Brixel. Let's talk about it. Give us a short pitch so everybody out there knows exactly what you do, and then we'll get more into a deep dive into your industry.
So Brixel comes out of two words: bricks, which stands for a brick, the physical part of a house, and pixel, so the digital part. That's kind of what we're trying to combine, the real estate world with the digital world. And when we started Brixel, the vision was to create a new market, that you have a platform where you can buy or sell a house with a mouse click. So really simplify everything. That's a bit how it got started, and now over 2 years it grew a lot. And as you know, startup, they try out things, some things work, some things don't work, and we just kept moving and moving. And now we're at the really interesting point where we are getting really not only into technology, but also really becoming part of the process itself, as being a player of buying or selling houses ourselves.
What was, let's say, the biggest challenge or problem that you saw in the market that drove you to start Brixel?
Well, how we started is also a bit because we were working for banks. We saw a bit how they sell mortgages online. We worked for HomeGate or other real estate companies. And there was just something missing that just goes further than just what that was there, So something that enables you to go through a process from A to Z. So that was missing. So we saw that a lot of people in Switzerland, actually, almost half of people, if they want to sell their house, they do it on their own. So what was missing is that a place where it all comes together, So you have to pick something there and there and there. And we thought, why don't we just bring that together into one process that leads you from A to Z, and you can even do a transaction online. And that's how it got started. And also that it's very intransparent. The market is very intransparent, real estate. And now there's so much available, so much more data. We're just, working with partners or we gather our own data, and we can provide that. So technology now enables people to be much more mature about their decision making in selling or buying houses. So we just saw the opportunity that there's a lot of potential.
What data exactly are you using to, let's say, assess the price and the value of one of these properties?
On one side, we work with partners like Yahtzee, which is an estimation company, one of the two established players. Now there's new ones coming onto the market that we're also looking at and probably working together with soon. And otherwise, what we do, we just collect all the listings, what's out there, what's on the market. And we analyze that data, and we gather a lot of other information also from Bundesamt für Statistik, so from the government. And we just collect a lot and try to make sense out of it. And I think it's coming more clear and clear for everybody, and new offers are being developed based on that. Also, we started with a small feature. It's called Bestimate, where you can do a quick online estimation of your house with just a few inputs. And that had a huge impact also for our journey, because a lot of people, come to our website to try out this, and it's a great first entry point for us.
What is it, let's say, when you look at the Swiss real estate market that makes it so special? Because there are some restrictions specifically, let's say, for foreigners to invest here. Where do you see, let's say, the biggest challenges as, let's say, Switzerland as a real estate, market?
Well, there's different things. So you mentioned one of it, so restrictions for foreigners. But we have 26 cantons, so they have their own laws or regulations. Still, we have some bureaucracy. Comparing to maybe the United States, you don't have Grundbuchamt. Stuff like that makes the whole process or everything more complicated. But on the other hand, it's also making it more secure. So, you have the rules. So it's a bit both there. But still, I think transparency was missing, The companies had the data or the banks had the data, but the consumer not yet. And I think the consumer, they want it now. So that's also why new estimation startups pop up, new services pop up. There's a need for it. You quickly mentioned one of your features. Maybe walk me through as one of your customer. Let's say I wanted to sell my house. Where do my journey with Brixel start, and where does it end? Actually, if you want to sell a house, we talk to a lot of people, and that's also what we see when we look at our traffic. The first thing that you think about is, what do I get? What's the price? So that's why probably you go and look for how can I do a quick estimation somewhere, and then somehow then you start a process. And before you even start marketing it, there's lots of things you need to learn about, taxes and stuff and so on. But then again, okay, now I'm ready to go to market. Now I really need to be sure what price tag do I put on. At that point, for instance, you can do a profession estimation in our online tool, so that goes really into all details. Or someone comes to your house. So you start at thinking of how much will I get, and in the end, what you're looking for, someone who's paying me, that amount. You're looking for a buyer, so you start with the initial point already very early on, and that's where you want to end up in the end again. How much do I get in the end?
Yes.
And that's also where we're going to now with new offerings like the price guarantee, where we say we can actually provide you an offer at a certain point. So we can take the very early question out of the way in the beginning. So we're trying to close that circle.
Right. I mean, that's something that I was intrigued when I was looking through the website, is like this 90 days guarantee. So at some point you will have like a massive amount of real estate properties on your books, I assume.
Yeah, it's true. That's also the idea that actually we can sell it within 90 days. But ever since we started that model, we also thought, what if we are going to be more progressive? What if we can make you an offer earlier? So that's what we're working on. We're trying to figure out a bit the selection criteria. But if we have the houses on our books, it doesn't matter, because we will resell them. And maybe when you look at other countries, if you see what's happening there, mainly in the US or UK, there you already have these kind of models. They're called iBuyer. It's like intelligent buyer. So you as a startup, you try to use the intelligence you have, you gather over a market, over the data, to narrow it down and say, I can be sure to resell this house in a certain amount of time, or I can be sure if I buy it now, I can resell it at least with a profit or not a loss. And then there's a risk calculation behind it. And that's what we're working towards to, and I think that's pretty new, and I think we're the first ones doing it outside of US, UK, so far I know, yeah.
But that's a massive exposure to the housing market, I assume. I mean,
in what kind of...
Like when you have it on your books for 90 days and you're not sure what happens to the housing market within these 90 days.
Well, it doesn't move that fast, And the thing is, the risk related, you still have a property. You're not losing it. So you can still say, let's keep it and rent it out and sell it later. So I think the risk there is quite even out.
So when you look at, let's say, the real estate market overall in Switzerland, where are we heading? What is, let's say, the current? Are we in an up or down, bullish, bearish? What do you see like the market going right now?
Well, you can't say for whole Switzerland. You see like regions that go up and down. Some they flatten out. So I would really have to look at the data myself. Go ask also my colleague who's really looking at the data every day. And he could give you this answer. So yeah, I think it's probably stabilizing a bit. It's not growing that fast anymore. Some regions, a lot has been built, so prices maybe flatten out a bit. Yeah, but for now it's stable. The interest rates are still staying low. So I think for now, the next few years, we can expect to continue like it is now.
I mean, like when you look at the big trends, let's say in real estate, you have like co-working, co-living, sharing, shared economy, all of these buzzwords. Where do you see, let's say you put your mind into, let's say 20 years from now, taking into aspect all of your experience with digital products, where do you see the real estate market then?
Yeah, it's actually something we're already working on. So like WeWork or Airbnb, or also called Generation Airbnb, it's something that we look at closely.
Yeah.
And it will be more towards how you do transactions, more towards ownership. You maybe don't want to buy, but you rent, but somehow you still want to have it for yourself in a way, so kind of a mix of owning and renting. And I think the trend is going into that way. Probably people won't stay in a house for 30 years anymore, like they used to now, on average. Because if it's getting easier and easier to sell or buy houses, due to platforms like Brixel, models like Brixel has, or more transparency in the market, more traction is possible, more liquidity, and people, they want to move faster. So I think Switzerland will also become a more fluent market if the circumstances allow it.
One of the last questions I always ask before we get into quick Q&A is about, let's say, the local ecosystem. How do you perceive it? Do you feel like something is moving here in Switzerland, or let's say in Zurich specifically? Startup, innovation, digital?
Yeah, I think ever since I got into this world, The last 5 years, I think we've seen it. So many initiatives, so many things are happening. More and more successful startup coming out of Zurich or all of Switzerland. Lots of things are happening. What's interesting though, now it's all under the label startup innovation. But I think Switzerland has ever since been a really innovative country. Mm-hmm. And I think now initiatives like Digital Switzerland, they really are able to, bring in like maybe the older world, bringing the government that was already pushing like the small and middle-sized companies, the KMUs. Bring it not just, it's not just in a bubble where, innovation labs or just the startups from ETH and other startups. It's becoming a greater one, and I think it's necessary. And we also see that some verticals like the crypto valley are now emerging out of it. Mm-hmm. So it's great. It's really good, and I think Switzerland has to push it a lot, even more. Yeah.
Yeah, especially position themselves like in a different way than just banking and financial services.
Absolutely. Yeah.
What are some of your tips for balancing work and life?
Hard for me. I'm a dad now. So choose wisely. Choose wisely what you do during a day. And I think you have to organize yourself and try to keep doing sport.
The most important character in an entrepreneur?
You have to be able to do failures and, be self-critique, but then just stand up again and do it again and, just constantly push it.
Anything specific you do when you, let's say, failed at something to get yourself up again?
Yeah, I reflect. I talk to Michael, my business partner. Maybe I take some distance. And it doesn't take a lot of time. Then I just see another opportunity, another solution. Yeah.
What's important to you in an investor?
Not the money. I think what they can add in terms of experience, network, what they know in maybe the field you're in. And that they push you, they challenge you, so that you together can work as a team, so they can add value in that sense, not just the capital itself.
What traits do you look for when you hire?
Well, when we hire someone, we usually do interviews, and then we call it a work day, at least half a day working together. And there you mainly see if someone is really someone who can work on their own, takes risk on their own, and has this entrepreneurial spirit. We need people that we don't need to hold their hand, so they need to be pushers as we are. Yeah.
Right. How do you assess risk? Like if they're risk takers? Like how do you see that?
Well, we are also transparent. We tell them you probably earn less than in the market, so that's already a risk maybe that you take. We tell them, maybe in half a year it's over, and we can see how they react
to this. Yeah. What do you think was your biggest mistake as an entrepreneur?
That I haven't started earlier, I guess.
The classic one.
I know, it sounds stupid, but you learn so much. But I think it's not, I couldn't say one because there's so many things. And that's what you learn then always. We do mistakes every day, every week, and you try to learn. And it's funny, you read all these books with all this, expertise and recommendations and whatever, advice. And you read them, and a few years later you read them again. And then you see, okay, now I went through it. Now I can relate to it.
Right.
And it's very valuable that you do the experience yourself.
Which book? If you have one book that you say, like, this is it? 0 to 1?
I've read that one. Yeah.
Or which one would it be?
No, 0 to 1 is a good book.
So, Martin, now, as you know, the last part of the show is where you can leave some kind of legacy on the internet, on YouTube, for your kids and for everybody to watch. What kind of advice do you give them sitting in this chair? Mm-hmm. And aspiring to sit here at some point. Yeah,
so to all people or young people especially out there who want to be an entrepreneur, just go out there, do it. Maybe you don't have the great idea now or you don't have a team now. Just whatever you can learn along the way, it will help you later on. Also, if you only go work for a startup, maybe you don't have to be a founder necessarily. If you can join someone early on, you can learn a lot. It's also what happened to me when I joined Michael with his agency. I learned a lot just going into a field that I didn't know. So yeah, just go out there and try out things and it will come naturally.
You know, like the easiest way to become an entrepreneur?
I know, don't you tell me, you speak to so many.
Change your status on LinkedIn.
True, yeah, I agree.
Anyhow, Martin, thank you so much for being on the show today. I really appreciate it. Thank you very much, everybody who stayed all the way till the end and tuned in for today's show. Make sure to stay a few more seconds so you'll see who is up next week. Have a great day.
Hi, my name is Ben. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Legi. I had a very interesting discussion with Cédric, and so make sure to tune in next Monday and subscribe to the YouTube channel.